Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Thursday, November 18th, 2021. Today I'm going to recap last night's college basketball, NBA, NHL, and college football games. Look ahead to everything tonight. And we'll look ahead to Thursday Night Football as well. News and notes, Masked Singer, and Best Bet. We'll make it a quick and easy show today. We'll start in college basketball as we've done the last couple days since the season is brand new and still getting used to things. So we'll recap last night's games and look ahead to a busy day today. Texas A&M over Houston Baptist 73-39. A&M Corpus Christi over Denver 69-67. UMass Lowell over Central Con 77-53. UTSA over IUPUI 60-57. Army over Merrimack 74-51. Rhode Island over Boston College 57-49. Number 23 UConn over LIU 93-40. George Mason upsets number 20 Maryland 71-66. Miami of Ohio over Stetson 80-65. Michigan State over Butler 73-52. Drexel over St. Joe 78-75. Delaware over LaSalle 85-82 in overtime. Lipscomb over Dayton 78-59. Columbia over Binghamton 85-77 in overtime. Harvard over Albany 60-53. Coppin State over Loyola Maryland 71-49. Wake Forest over Charleston Southern 95-59. Princeton over Marist 80-61. Bucknell over Rider 81-74. Oakland over Toledo 80-59. Number 9 Baylor over Central Arkansas 92-47. Number 16 Arkansas over Northern Iowa 93-80. Louisiana over Xavier Louisiana 84-72. Kansas City over Kansas Christian 99-36. VC over Vandy 48-37. Mississippi State over Detroit Mercy 77-34. South Dakota State over Montana State 91-74. Florida State over Tulane 59-54. Kansas State over Omaha 79-64. Oklahoma State over NC State 74-68. Number 8 Texas over Northern Colorado 62-49. Stanford over Valpo 74-60. Missouri State over Sam Houston 77-55. Air Force over Texas Southern 61-57. Indiana over St. John's 76-74. So best bet was a winner. Grand Canyon over Prairie View 91-64. Portland State over George Fox 104-58. Utah Valley over Long Beach State 84-78 in overtime. Pepperdine over UC Davis 72-67. Loyola Marymount over Little Rock 82-63. St. Mary's over Bellarmine 73-64. Number 2 UCLA over North Florida 98-63. San Diego over Riverside 74-62. Hood, Maryland Eastern, and St. Peter's Wagner both postponed. All right, now we look ahead to today's games. First up at 12 o'clock on ESPNU, you have Davidson and New Mexico State. My projection is New Mexico State by 3, total 137.5. I did totals for at least half of the games. And that's all I have. And it is Davidson by 1.5, total 131.5. The question is New Mexico State or the over, and I'm going to go with the over. 2 o'clock ESPN 2, number 22 St. Bonaventure and Boise State from TD Arena. By the way, Davidson, New Mexico State comes to you from the HTC Center. Bonnie and Boise State, I project Bonnie by 11.5, total 122.75. Meanwhile, it is Bonnie by 4.5, total 131.5. Big edge on Bonaventure, big edge on the under. It's a 7-point and then a 9-point, so I'm going to go with the under. Next up, Penn, Utah State from the HTC Center at 2:30 on ESPNU. My projection is Penn by 3/4, total 151.25. It's Utah State by 9.5, total 141.5. Huge edge on Penn, huge edge on the over. The question is, where do I go? I'm going to actually take Penn plus the 9.5 and 4-1 on the money line. I would put it Penn in my round robin if I had to do a underdog money line round robin. Penn's an option for sure. Green Bay and UNC Greensboro from the MacArthur Center at 3 o'clock on CBS Sports Network in the Jersey Mike's Classic. My projection is Greensboro by 13.25, total 124.7. Meanwhile, it's 8.5 and 125.5. I'm going to lay the 8.5 with Greensboro. Clemson Temple from TD Arena in the Shriners Children's Charleston Classic, 4:30 ESPN2. My projection is Clemson by 4.25, total 137.7. Meanwhile, I don't see a FanDuel line. I'll check DraftKings right now. And it is Clemson by 4 total, 132.5. I'm going to take the over. 5 o'clock, Wheeling, Jesus, and Akron, we can skip. 5:30 from the MacArthur Center, Jersey Mike's Classic. UMass, Weber State. My projection is Weber State by 4.25, total 133.65. Meanwhile, it is Weber State by 1.5, total 146.5. Under, big time under. It's weird because the money lines are even on that game. 6 o'clock, Milwaukee, number 24, Florida. My projection is Florida by 13, total 136. Now it's 14.5 and 140.5 under. Tennessee Tech and UNC Asheville from McKenzie Arena. My projection is Asheville by 3.5, total 146. Meanwhile, it's Asheville 1.5, total 144.5. I'm going to lay the 1.5 of Asheville at plus money. How about that? At even. Greensboro and NC&T, we could skip. 6:30 Fox Sports 1, number 19, Ohio State against Xavier. My projection is Xavier by 2.75, total 136.75. Meanwhile, this line is Ohio State by 2.5, total 139.5. I'm taking Xavier plus 2.5 and plus 118 straight up. This is a big spot for Xavier. Charlotte and App State. My projection is App State by 3.25, total 132. And it is 3.5 and 124.5. Love the over. New Hampshire and Providence. My projection for this game is Providence by 10.25, total 144.15. Fox Sports 2 is airing the game. 13.5 and 135.5. Another over. 7 o'clock, Polytechnic University and Colgate, we can skip. Carver College Citadel, we can skip. BU Hartford, my projections, BU 1.5, total 130.15. Meanwhile, it is 1.5 and 134.5. I'm going to take the under. Next up is SC Upstate and East Tennessee State. My projection is East Tennessee State by 16. Total 142.5. Meanwhile, it is 17.5 and 140.5. Very close numbers, but I got to take the over. Campbell Marshall. My projection is Marshall by 3.75, so 156.5. Meanwhile, it's 6.5 and 146.5. Over. Coastal Carolina and UNC Wilmington. My projection is Wilmington by 3/4, so 132.7. Meanwhile, it is 1.5 and 142.5. I'm going to take the under. St. Francis, Brooklyn, and Penn State. My projection is Penn State 21, total 143.5. Meanwhile, it is Penn State 22.5, total 142.5. Very close numbers. This is the closest I've been. So, slight edge to St. Fran, Brooklyn. Alabama State, Iowa on the Big Ten Network. My projection is Iowa by 29, total 152.75. It's 29.5, total 149.5. Close numbers, but I'm taking the over. UAB in South Carolina. My projection is UAB by 0.5, total 125. Meanwhile, it's UAB by 2.5, total 144.5. I'm going to take a very big over in this game. Presbyterian in Cincinnati. My projection is Cincinnati by 18.25, total 135.05. Meanwhile, it is 14.5 and 129.5. Over. ESPN 2, Marquette Ole Miss from TD Arena. My projection is Ole Miss by 4.25, total 149.85. Meanwhile, it is 3.5 and 135.5. Over. ESPNU, Myrtle Beach Invitational, Oklahoma, East Carolina. My projection is Oklahoma by 6 3/4, total 145.7. Meanwhile, it's Oklahoma by 12.5. I'm going to take ECU plus the points. I don't have a total in front of me at the moment. Saginaw Valley, Western Michigan, we can skip. Eastern Michigan and Northern Kentucky. My projection for this game is NKU by 11 3/4, so 152.25. Meanwhile, it's 9.5 and 138.5. Very big over as well. Transylvania, Morehead State at 7:30. We can skip 8 o'clock. Stony Brook at number 3, Kansas. My projection is Kansas by 14 1/4, total 140.75. Meanwhile, it is Kansas 25.5 total, 141.5. I'm taking Stony Brook in the points. St. Andrews on SC State, we could skip. Texas Arlington, North Texas. I project North Texas by 13 3/4, total 138.5. Meanwhile, it is 10.5 and 127.5. Another over. Ball State and FIU from the MacArthur Center. Jersey Mike's Classic on CBS Sports Network. My projection is Ball State by a half, total 128 1/4. Meanwhile, it is Ball State by 1.5, total 143.5. Way under. Rockford in Eastern Illinois, we can skip. And now we're in the point where I didn't do the totals. Bakersfield and Northern Arizona, I project Bakersfield by 2. And it is 3.5 and 132.5. I'm going to go over again. Nichols, TCU. My projection for this game is TCU by 7 1/4. Meanwhile, it is 14.5 and taking Nichols. Southeast Louisiana and SMU. My projection is 14 3/4 for SMU. Now it's 20.5. I'm taking Southeast Louisiana. Haskell and Oral Roberts, we can skip. McNeese, LSU. My projection is LSU by 25 3/4. Meanwhile, it's 29.5. I'm going to take McNeese. St. Fran, PA, and Virginia Tech. I project Virginia Tech by 29 3/4. ACC Network game. And it's 21.5. I'm going to lay it with Virginia Tech. Northern Illinois and Missouri. My projection here is Missouri 14, and it is 13.5 total is 138.5. I'll take the over. Rutgers and DePaul. My projection is Rutgers by 6 1/4. Meanwhile, this line is 2.5 for Rutgers and 133.5 as a total. I'm going to lay the points with Rutgers. Sanford, Oregon State, 9 o'clock, Pac-12 Network. By the way, Rutgers, DePaul's 8:30, Fox Sports 1. So 9 o'clock, Pac-12 Network, Sanford, Oregon State. My projection is Oregon State by 15 3/4. Meanwhile, it is 14.5 and 139.5. I'm going to take the over. Washington State and Idaho. My projection is Wazoo by 13 1/4. Meanwhile, it's 18.5. I'm going to take Idaho. Fairleigh Dickinson in Northwestern. My projection is Northwestern by 22. Meanwhile, it's 26. I'm going to take Fairleigh Dickinson. I'm sorry, Northwestern minus the points. Or no. Northwestern's favored by 26, and I have it 22, so I'm taking Fairleigh Dickinson. I was right first time. Presentation College and South Dakota State on ESPN Plus at 9:15. We can skip. Elon and West Virginia from TD Arena. Shriners Children's Charleston Classic. My projection is West Virginia by 11 3/4. And it is 12.5. 135.5 is the total. I'll take the over. ESPNU, Indiana State Old Dominion. It's the Myrtle Beach Invitational from the HTC Center. My projection is Old Dom by 10 3/4. Meanwhile, it's Old Dom 6.5. I'm going to lay to 6.5 with Old Dom. Morgan State and Seattle, 10 o'clock. My projection is Seattle by 7.5, and it's 10.5. I'm taking Morgan. Southern Utah and Cal, my projection is Cal by 1/4. This game's on the Pac-12 Network. And it's Cal by a whopping 11.5. I'm taking... Wait. Oh, wrong game. Cal's favored by 3.5, total 137. I'm still taking Southern Utah plus the points and plus 136 on the money line. San Jose State, Cal Baptist. My projection is Baptist by 9.25. Meanwhile, it's Baptist 11.5. I'm going to take San Jose State in the points. Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and Portland. That's an 11 o'clock game. My projection is Portland by 19.5. Meanwhile, it is 12.5. I'm going to lay it with Portland. Arizona State and San Diego State, 10:30 CBS Sports Network. My projection is San Diego State by 1/4. Meanwhile, it is San Diego State by 8.5. That's a lot. I'm taking Arizona State and the points. Nevada, San Francisco. My projection is San Francisco by 10.25. Meanwhile, it's 7.5. I'm going to lay to 7.5 for San Francisco. And last but not least, 11 o'clock. Wyoming, Washington on the Pac-12 Network. My projection is Washington by 10.25. Meanwhile, it is 2.5. I'm going to lay to 2.5 with Washington over Wyoming. Now I'll move on to the NBA. I will recap last night's games, and we will look ahead to tonight. Hornets over the Wizards, 97-87. Pistons over the Pacers, 97-89. Hawks over the Celtics, 110-99. Nets over the Cavs, 109-99. Heat over the Pelicans, 113-98. Magic over the Knicks, 104-98. Bucks over the Lakers, 109-102. Timberwolves over the Kings, 107-97. Thunder over the Rockets, 101-89. Suns over the Mavs, 105-98. And the Trailblazers over the Bulls, 112-107. Now we look ahead to tonight's games. 7:30 of the Warriors and the Cavaliers. My projection is Warriors by 9, total 210-45. Meanwhile, the Warriors are giving 7.5, total 205. I'm going to take the over in this game. Wizards Heat, my projection, Heat by 6, total 211-45. Meanwhile, it is 7-209. I'm going to go with another over. 8 o'clock, Clippers Grizzlies. I was going to say Cliz. I'm mixing the words here. My projection is Grizzlies by 1.25, total 217.15. Meanwhile, it is Grizzlies by 1, total 221. Now I'm going to take an under. Spurs Timberwolves. My projection is Minnesota by 5.25, total 214.6. Meanwhile, it's 2.5 and 220. I'm going to go with another under. 9 o'clock, NBA TV, 76ers Nuggets. My projection is Denver by 10.25, total 208.7. Meanwhile, it is 7.5 and 209. I'm going to lay the points with Denver. And last but not least, it's a 9 o'clock game, Raptors Jazz. My projection is Jazz by 10.25, total 212.1. Meanwhile, it is 9.5 and 214.5. I'm going to go with another under in this game. So all totals for the NBA gambling picks for tonight. We'll move on to the NHL now, where we'll recap a small window from last night and then look ahead to a very busy day today. Avalanche over the Canucks 4-2. Blackhawks over the Kraken 4-2, and the Capitals over the Kings 2-0. Now we look ahead to tonight. 7 o'clock, you have the Flames and the Sabres. Calgary's minus 192. Buffalo's plus 158. Over under 5.5. Over's minus 104. Under's minus 118. Calgary minus 1.5 is plus 142. Buffalo plus 1.5 is minus 176. I'm going to go over 5.5 minus 104. Calgary can score a lot of goals. They can do this by themselves, and maybe Buffalo scores a couple goals in garbage time. Rangers, Maple Leafs. Toronto's minus 188. Rangers plus 155. Over under 6. Over's minus 102. Under's minus 120. Rangers plus 1.5 is minus 176. Toronto minus 1.5 is plus 142. Let's go with the Rangers plus 155. They're playing really well right now. Give me the Rangers. 4 straight wins. Now just Toronto. Penguins, Canadians. Oof. Pittsburgh minus 156. Montreal plus 130. Over under 5.5. Over's minus 122. Under's even money. Pittsburgh minus 1.5 is plus 152. Montreal plus 1.5 is minus 215. Pittsburgh hasn't been playing well at all. Montreal hasn't been playing well either. Something's got to give. I'm going to make a ballsy pick here, and I'm going to pick tie, which is draw, plus 320. So, essentially betting on this game to go to overtime. Predators, Senators postponed due to the COVID outbreak of the Senators. Devils, Panthers. Florida is minus. Where is that line? How come I don't see the Devils and the Panthers line on here? I'm going to check DraftKings for it then. But you would assume that the Panthers would be monster favorites. And they're minus 185. Devils plus 160. Over under 6. Over's minus 105. Under's minus 115. Devils plus 1.5 is minus 140. Florida minus 1.5 is plus 120. Florida's just kicking everybody's asses. I'm going to lay the minus 1.5 at plus 120. Lightning, Flyers. Lightning minus 137. Philly plus 114. Over under 5.5. Over's minus 118. Under's minus 104. Lightning minus 1.5 is plus 198. Flyers plus 1.5 is minus 250. I am going to take the over in this game. I think there's going to be a lot of goals scored. 8 o'clock, Sharks, Blues. The Blues are minus 176. The Sharks are plus 146. Over under 6. Over's minus 105. Under's minus 115. Sharks plus 1.5 is minus 188. Blues minus 1.5 is plus 152. I am going to go with another draw bet or tie bet. Plus 330. Overtime in Sharks Blues. Stars Wild. The Wild are minus 137. The Stars are plus 114. Over under 5.5. Over's minus 102. Under's minus 120. Dallas plus 1.5 is minus 250. Wild minus 1.5 is plus 198. I'm going to go with the Wild in regulation at plus 120. 9 o'clock, Jets, Oilers. Oilers minus 156. The Jets are plus 130. Over under 6.5. Over's minus 106. Under's minus 114. Jets plus 1.5 is minus 205. Edmonton minus 1.5 is plus 164. Another interesting game for sure. I'm going to go. Let's go with the. Betting the draw is a lot of fun. Plus 330 on Jets Oilers for the tie in regulation. Blue Jackets, Coyotes. The Columbus Blue Jackets are minus 164. Arizona's plus 136. Over under 5.5. Overs plus 102. Unders minus 124. Columbus minus 1.5 is plus 164. Arizona plus 1.5 is minus 205. I'm going over 5.5 plus 102. 10 o'clock, Red Wings, Golden Knights. Vegas minus 176. Detroit plus 146. Over under 5.5. Overs minus 115. Unders minus 105. Detroit plus 1.5 is minus 188. Vegas minus 1.5 is plus 152. I'm going to go under 5.5 at minus 105. I think the goaltending, this game will be sensational, low scoring, so I'm going to go under 5.5 minus 105. And Hurricanes, Ducks. The Canes are minus 164. The Ducks are plus 136. Over under 5.5. Overs minus 112. Unders minus 108. Carolina minus 1.5 is plus 164. Ducks plus 1.5 is minus 205. I'm going to go with the Ducks at plus 136 as a home underdog. They've just been rocking as a dog this year, and they're so fun to watch. All right, now I'm going to recap last night's college football games, and I will look ahead to the standalone game for tonight, as we had two action games last night. Northern Illinois over Buffalo 33-27 in overtime, and Central Michigan over Ball State 37-17. Now we look ahead to the standalone games tonight, 7:30 ESPN, Louisville and Duke. My projection for this game is Louisville 2, total 59-15. Meanwhile, it is a whopping 20.5 point favorite for Louisville. Total is 60.5. I'm taking Duke plus the 20.5. No, they won't win outright. I just think this is a competitive game, and I believe that Duke will easily cover, but I ultimately think that the better team is the Louisville Cardinal. And Thursday night football for tonight, you have the Patriots and the Falcons from Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. My projections for this game is Patriots by 1, total 47-1. Some injuries and whatnot, I'm going to check. For this game, a lot of questionables. Kyle Duggar, Dante Hightower, Shaq Mason. Hayden Hurst really isn't a factor anymore because of the emergence of Kyle Pitts. Cordell Patterson, questionable. That's a big loss for Atlanta's offense. But again, my projection, Patriots 1, total 47-1. Meanwhile, it is 6.5 and 47. I'm taking Atlanta plus a 6.5. I think this is a close game, but they'll find a way to lose late. I think Mac Jones comes to play. Patriots win by 3. So I'm going to go, I feel like I'm getting a couple free points with the Falcons here. So give me the Falcons plus 6.5. No, they won't win. But I think that this will be a highly competitive game between these two teams. All right, now I'm going to go over today's news and notes. First up, Austria's Corey Aldemer wins the 2021 World Series of Poker main event and earns $8 million prize. So that's pretty cool. A couple of awards were announced last night. The Cy Young Awards. American League, you had Robbie Ray, the Blue Jays, very well deserved. 2.84 ERA and 248 strikeouts. And the Brewers is Corbin Burns. Led the league in ERA and strikeout rate. So, Robbie Ray, Corbin Burns, the well-deserved Cy Young winners. I had Corbin Burns at 15-1 to win the Cy Young back in April. And that was a very well placed future. Brandon Belt accepting the qualifying offer, $18.4 million from the Giants, so he's staying with the Giants. Meanwhile, Trevor Story declined the Rockies qualifying order, so he's a free agent. And Justin Verlander back to the Astros on a 1-year, $25 million deal. I did think he was going to go back there, and I was right. I just think he's comfortable there, personally. And the news was actually spit out by his brother Ben on Twitter, so that was pretty cool. So, Verlander back to the Astros, but I don't think he's the same pitcher as he used to be. But I still think he will be a productive pitcher, per se. This is interesting. So, this is where I would say somebody's lying. Hal Steinbrenner came out and says, we're going to look at every single option when asked about whether the team considers a shortstop a serious candidate to be signed. I think Hal's saying all the right things, and I think the Yankees should and will be open-minded this offseason. But an hour later, it's reported Yankees won't cash out for a shortstop as the team isn't planning to bring in expensive free agents such as Carlos Correa or Corey Seager. And that comes from the New York Daily News. But somebody is lying and somebody's telling the truth. If the Yankees sign one of the big shortstops, Hal wasn't lying, and Daily News was. And if not, Daily News is right, and Hal is lying. You know how I feel about Hal Steinbrenner. I don't think he's as good as his father. The team hasn't really... they've been good under him, but they haven't been the Dodgers or the Astros, or even the Red Sox, to be frank. And it's just... pressure's on the Yankees to make a big splash this offseason. I said the two biggest teams under the most pressure are the two teams that reside in New York, the Yankees and the Mets, and it isn't even close. So we'll see what happens there. Michigan State eyeing a big contract to head coach Mel Tucker. 10 years, $95 million is what they're eyeing. If I'm Mel, I take it. To me, he's the National Coach of the Year this year. Michigan State is a New Year's Six candidate. So he absolutely deserves that extension. And he has a big game against Ohio State coming up. So pressure's on. Islanders defenseman Ryan Pulock out 4 to 6 weeks with a lower body injury. That's a big loss for the Islanders on defense. And they're off to a slow start right now. It's just unfortunate for them. Alexander Barkov week to week as he dealt with a knee-on-knee collision. Kyler Murray pretty close to his return. He says he's pretty close to playing. Maybe he comes back on Sunday. Baker Mayfield says, I'm beat up. He'll play on Sunday against the Lions, but admits injuries have left him probably the most beat up he's ever been. I don't think he's played that great. I think injuries have a big part of it, and there are times he has looked great this year. He has a good offensive line. His running backs being hurt certainly hurts him on having COVID as well. So that hurts Baker Mayfield, in my opinion, as well. Running backs matter, in my opinion. The Panthers were garbage without Christian McCaffrey. The Giants did okay without Saquon Barkley, but that's because their offensive line's better and Daniel Jones was playing well. So the Giants without Saquon Barkley was a little better from an offensive standpoint in some spots than you would have expected. So we'll see with that. The Jets to start Joe Flacco in Week 11 over Mike White, and Zach Wilson's still not 100%. This is Zach Wilson's team. Mike White got everybody excited for a game and a half, and we saw the real Mike White against the Bills on Sunday. And here's something funny. A PointsBet better had $220,000 on Kentucky, minus 24.5 the other day. And a walk-on Zan Payne tweeted after making the layup for the cover, which is pretty neat. All right, now I'm going to recap last night's episode of The Masked Singer. It was the Group B semifinal. It was an interesting episode, to say the least. Cheryl Hines joined the panel as a guest judge. Banana Split went first. Banana tried to be a singer, but it didn't work out, and he had the drums in his performance this weekend. They performed Poker Face by Lady Gaga. And the special clue of the week was the trophy set. Bring your trophy to work, they called it. And they brought in trophies and one of them said censored on it. My guess as of right now is Jessie J and Dr. Luke. Jessie J has a bunch of big songs. Domino, she's in that song Bang Bang. And I think that the one playing the piano and the drums is a producer, Dr. Luke. Jenny McCarthy said Jessie J and Ed Sheeran, but I doubt it's Ed Sheeran. Robin Thicke said Brian Tedder and Leona Lewis. And Nicole said John Krasinski and Emily Blunt. Next up was the Caterpillar. He talks about fake it until you make it. And he said he's been a singer his whole life. He said he has a sister. And Caterpillar performed Friends in Low Places by Garth and Brooks. And his reward that he brought in was a champion Bible quiz winner. My guess for Caterpillar, AJ McLean. Nicole went with Tyler from Florida Georgia Line. Cheryl said Jim Parsons. And Jenny McCarthy actually pressed the take it off buzzer, thinking that she was absolutely convinced that it was Jake Gyllenhaal. But it was not Jake Gyllenhaal. And then Emily Hampshire came on before the commercial as like a contestant bestie kind of thing. So that kind of was a clue. Up third was Mallard. He talks about his wife. Has a ton of kids who have grown on his bad jokes. And he talks about being an underdog. And the song he performed was Fly by Sugar Ray. And the reward he had was something from Barbara Walters, the 10 most fascinating people. My guess for Mallard, Lionel Richie. Nicole went with Dove the Hunter. Ken Jung went with Garth Brooks. And Cheryl with the dumbest guess of the season of George Foreman. Last but not least was Queen of Hearts. She talked about in the clue package a rough situation, which ultimately got her in a good spot. Her song was to She's Got You by Patsy Cline. And her trophy was a Blockbuster Entertainment Award. And the best guess of the night also went to Cheryl Hines, as she guessed Kristen Chenoweth. Chenoweth is someone that really could disguise her voice pretty good, but I think her voice is too distinct. I don't think this is Kristen Chenoweth. Ken Jung went with Kelly Clarkson, and Nicole went with Sia. I'm really unsure about Queen of Hearts, which I'm going to come back to my guess for Queen of Hearts, but it's comes with an asterisk for a specific reason. The first eliminated was Ballard. I need to go back and look and see what my first impression guess was. And my first impression guess was Darius Rucker of Hootie the Blowfish. Wow. And my final guess, I went with Lionel Richie, because he hints about famous family, having a bunch of kids. And there's that clue with Luke Bryant, that Luke Bryant made him sing a song. Luke Bryant and him were judges together on Idol, so I went with Lionel Richie. Robin's first impression guess was Larry the Cable Guy, who happened to be the baby. And his final guess was Alan Jackson. Jenny McCarthy's first impression guess was Toby Keith. And her final was Jason Aldean. Nicole's first impression guess was Dierks Bentley. Her final guess was Dog the Bounty Hunter. Ken Jung's first and final was Billy Ray Cyrus. And Cheryl Hines with the worst guess of the season, George Foreman, as her final. And who was it? Willie Robertson of Duck Dynasty. Who thunk it? Willie Robertson. Reality star. He has a ton of kids. Been in a ton of stuff. Duck and Buck Commander. Whose line is it anyway? Last Man Standing. Billy the Exterminator. So, yeah, Duck Dynasty. And now star of The Masked Singer, who did a great job. I got to applaud him. I never would have guessed. And second eliminated was the Caterpillar. My first impression guess was Joey McIntyre. My final guess was AJ McLean. The close first impression guess was Chris Brown. Her final guess was Tyler of Florida Georgia Line. Ken Jung's first impression guess was Aaron Carter. His final guess was Dan Levy. Jenny McCarthy's first impression guess was Brian Luttrell. Her final was Owen Wilson. Robin Thicke wrote down Howie D for his first impression guess, but he claims on the show last night he meant it to be AJ McLean, and that was his final guess. Well, Robin agreed with me. And Cheryl's final guess was Jim Parsons, and who was it? Bobby Burke. He stars in Queer Eye in Netflix. He is in Queer Eye. A couple appearances in Nailed It, Miss Americana. So, Bobby Burke and Willie Robertson, two reality show stars, getting unmasked on The Masked Singer. And back to the Queen of Hearts. So, Willie Robertson was the Mallard. Mallard Duck Dynasty. The person who I think there's a chance Queen of Hearts is, Queen of Hearts, obviously, is a card that is played in poker. Poker Face, Lady Gaga. If you're using that logic, But where it gives me pause is that in the third episode, but wait a second. This person also sang Born This Way. That's bizarre. Alright, I don't know. I'm confused, guys. But she performed La Vie en Rose. I'm trying to find that episode where she sang La Vie en Rose. I guess it was the second group, the second time they went out. But she already performed Born This Way. Alright, then I don't think it's Lady Gaga. I have no idea who Queen of Hearts is. But using the logic on Mallard's costume could make the case for Lady Gaga for Queen of Hearts. But she performed Born This Way and she performed La Vie en Rose. She sings Born This Way and she performed La Vie en Rose in A Star Is Born. So, I don't know what to think for Queen of Hearts. It is a very difficult singer to project whom it is. But all I gotta say is that Queen of Hearts is an absolute no-brainer to win this competition. This is the best contestant the show has had since The Sun last year. Alright, and last but not least, my best bet of the day, brought to you by FanDuel. There's a lot of college basketball totals that I think are no-brainers. And I mean absolute no-brainers in terms of overs. I'm going to go 2 units again. And the over that I think is the most absolute lock, no-brainer, is Marquette Ole Miss. I'm going over 135.5. It's minus 115. I'm going to lay 2 units on it because that's how good I feel about it. And that is my best bet of the day. All right, so there you have it for the show. I'll be back tomorrow recapping everything from football to basketball to hockey, looking ahead to everything in the weekend. We will talk golf, and obviously best bet and Fab 5 as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.